This is Brother Shinobi Muhammad. Meet the F.O.I. and
Brother Winford X.
As in usual, because sometimes I forget.
Hmm.
We're gonna do it early this time around. We're gonna give the people the greetings of Assalamu alaikum, which means peace be unto you. And basically, when we say that, we want for our brother that which we want for ourselves. So I want peace for myself, and I want peace for you.
That's right. What we doing?
I messed that up. That's okay. I didn't mean to throw you off. I don't normally do that. All right. So people, today we're going to be on a new topic. Now, the most important point of all of our topics is self-improvement and personal accountability. That's important. Meet the F.O.I. podcast is about meeting the brothers that's in the Nation of Islam. We've all gone through our own mud, right? And we all are still dealing and trying to focus on the things in our life to improve upon ourselves. That's important. Just like the brothers that's in prison, just like the brothers that are ex-con, just like the brothers that are associated with different street organizations, all of us are in the same boat. We're trying to work on each other. Myself, I was a former gangster disciple. I understand that process and that life, that mentality, right? This brother right here, brother was blood. Served more than 15 years in prison, right? He understands what that mentality is. He understands how he had to overcome those things. So today we're going to be dealing with a very important subject that's tied to that. But as usual, I always swing it over to my brother because he always opens it up with prayer because we like to do everything with God first. And I'm going to let him go ahead and bless this episode. This is episode number 4.
Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. In the name of Allah, the Beneficent, the Merciful, I bear witness that there is no God but Allah. Muhammad is his messenger and exalted Christ. And I further bear witness that the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan is the extension of the Son of Man. And the reason why we open up with that, brothers, is because we wanna solidify the base. We want to be able to set the stage. We want to be able to let you know how serious this is. We don't say that for entertainment. We don't. This platform is not created just for a show. Like you going to the movies. This is a reality. This is something that we have to. This is a threshold that has to be crossed. That we are really striving to become new men. But before we're able to become new men, we must first have a new mind. And we know that there is a mechanism of things that has to be filtered out. And you have what I call a 3-step method. It's deconstruction, reconstruction, and construction, right? And there is no time limit on whatever phase or whatever stage that you may be in. Everybody not going to be in the same stage. But one thing that we do know we have to do is we have to start the method. We have to get in the reflection and get in a certain mindset to understand that, yes, we have shortcomings. Yes, we're grown men. Some of us are highly financially successful, but yet and still, that doesn't mean that we're successful. True success is being able to understand the reality of God and the knowledge of self. You know, everything else is a plus. So this is what we're talking about, like the brother said, self-improvement, holding ourselves accountable, having accountability. But that's what we're doing. And God say the same, inshallah. We're going to spread this thing all over. And by the time we know it, man, we have come from being niggas to becoming gods.
Now, the most important point to carry on top of that is that I want brothers who are vice lords, gangster disciples, Blackstones, Bloods, Crips, any of the organizations,
right.
Latin Kings, all of you guys understand
right.
that your organization that you have, it's nothing wrong with it. You didn't have the Boy Scouts, you didn't have all that. You had men, young brothers. Most of those street organizations were started by young brothers, right, who needed something. So those organizations came to life for them. Now, because of their environment and their condition, it devolved into criminal activity. It evolved into black violence amongst one another. It evolved into a lot of different destructive activities. But if you bring truth and you bring self-improvement,
right.
If you teach a person about having true accountability, then you can turn all that around, and those organizations can actually have significant importance in our community, right? That's all the minister was saying. He said, look, he said, stop the killing. If you're going to stop the killing, then what else you going to do? You're going to start building. Then you can focus on, the economic situation. You're talking about you want jobs. You're talking about you want opportunities. You have the ability to create it. You created an organization that spans across the country. If you have the ability to sell hundreds of millions of dollars in drugs, that means you understand business. You just got to flip the script to another tale, and then make it happen from there.
That's right.
Now, one of the things I always like to do, we start a subject off, and we're dealing with street organizations, and it's always that story of what it was like when you first became a part of that street organization. The very few moments that you saw them and said, you know what, I'm going to join this. For you, what was that like, that feeling becoming a part of the Bloods?
Well, a lot of, let me say this, for those who don't know, but the brothers that do know, there are certain traditions or rituals or certain things called initiation, right? Being initiated, I never per se got initiated. I never had to go and shoot somebody, or I never had to stand where 3 or 4 dudes came at me for a minute, or hey, this and that. I never went through those things, man. So the way that I was brought in was just by that influence, just having that around, and because it's quite crazy. Because let me just say this: the neighborhood that I grew up in was a Crip neighborhood. It's a Crip neighborhood. But where I went to school at was away across town from where I stayed.
Right.
Because previously, before I moved to where I was in the Crip neighborhood when I was younger, the area that I was in was a Blood neighborhood. So
that's different.
Right. So when we moved, when my dad moved, when my mom and my dad divorced, and it was just me and my dad, we moved. I didn't know at that time. I didn't know it was a Crip neighborhood. I was just 6 years old. Didn't know anything about gangs at that time. And as I started to grow, I'm seeing this is a Crip neighborhood. But my dad didn't take me out of the school from where I previously lived. So I was still growing up, going to school. I went to one elementary school from kindergarten through 6th grade. I went through the same elementary. So all of my friends growing up. So in that area, once I got to middle school, it's when I started to see, and I started to become more conscious of, okay, different gangs. I started understanding, okay, Bloods wearing red, and Parus are wearing red, and Kings and 49 Kings, these are Bloods, and my neighborhood Crips, they wearing blue and stuff like this, right? So as I got into middle school and I started seeing this, this is when I started to become more conscious of that. So the guys who I went to school with, these were my guys. These are the guys who I hung with all the time, But when I came home, it was more where my dad knew, hey, he tried to shelter me from the environment that we were in. So I really wasn't interacting and communicating with the guys where I actually lived at. And my dad tried to alter that so I wouldn't. So I had Nintendo, I had Sega Genesis.
He kept you away from what was in the neighborhood.
Right. So it's only so much a parent can do. Right. They can try to cover as much as they can, but then you're still going to be influenced outside of your home. And that's what happened, man. Just my guys I went to school with, as we grew up, they were Bloods, and once I started going to high school, I had an opportunity, but that mindset was already shaped from my partners that I went to school with. So they Bloods, right? So I'm like, so as I'm growing up and I get into high school, now I'm going to high school in my neighborhood. And some of those guys that I started going to school with, that was in my neighborhood, they started becoming my friends and started becoming cool with. So they would always see me wearing red a lot, and I'm starting to notice. I'm like, damn, But I still had partners that I went to school that I used to kick it with because I played football, I played basketball, I ran track. My dad always kept me busy. I was always into sports. and I was really good. And we would go out of town and for national championships and state championships and stuff like that. I was always active in sports, and just my guys, man. Growing up, they was Bloods, man, and the people I started, I lived with growing up, they was Crips. So they would ask me like, man, hey, look, this is when it started to become more conscious.
Yes,
They asking me like, hey, man, you wear a lot of red, brother. What's going on with this here? You sure wearing a lot of this here. And I'm like, and I knew it was coming, and I'm like, hey, and some of them used to be like, hey, man, we don't really, and the older guys, you consider OGs, guys that was Crips, the OGs, they would look, a lot of them I would have problems with, but they never took it to the point where they was actually putting their hands on me or trying to do harm, but they would always be like, letting me know, man, you can't keep wearing it over here, this and that. So I'm like, man, hey, whatever, it going in one ear out the other, right?
Right.
And that's kind of how it went, man. And so it's crazy because we would be at different functions, just like we used to skate a lot, man, and we'd go skating. But I'm hanging with my guys I went to school with. Now I'm with a lot of Bloods at a skating ring, and I see the guys who, the neighborhood I stay in, they Crips, they at the skating ring too. But they Cripped out. I'm with my other partner, my Blood. So they looking at me saying, man, look at this nigga. We can't believe, and I'm seeing them, and I'm like, damn, So it was, it was, as I can look back at it, man, that was playing Russian roulette. That was playing Russian roulette, man. And I didn't look at it right. I didn't look at it to that detriment. That's why I always say, all praise due to Allah, man, that I'm still here to be able to tell certain things because. And then also, it's jealousy seeps in, envy seeps in. You start becoming popular with the women, and the girls start seeing you and stuff like this. And now the guys who you live with that are Crips, they looking now. That's another reason why. That's just another reason to say, man, you can't keep wearing it over here. So I had fights. I had fights with guys in my own neighborhood that were Crips. Because for what reason they didn't like me, you hang with them Bloods and this and that. So I did start having little scuffles here and there, with guys that where I stayed, where I lived at, So, but that influence, man, going back to you saying how was it, going into that, I never stopped, being with my guys that was Bloods and stuff like that, and we did things. We wasn't supposed to do. We got into it with other guys and stuff like that, man. But for the most part, I felt accepted. I felt that invitation of, man, you one of us.
Yeah.
You one of us. And so, I always prided myself on keeping myself up, dressing nice, smelling good, kept my hair cut, kept myself up. And a lot of my guys that I went to school with that were Bloods did the same thing. But a lot of guys I live with, and there's no disrespect to my guys that where I stayed, but they were more, they don't care what they throw on, they don't care what they just Crips, hair wild, we just gonna throw some blue on. We don't even care if it's clean or not. We just gonna throw it on and that ain't even what we tripping on, and I just never could see myself moving like that, and
the whole process.
Right. So the guys that I was with, Bloods, they was always clean, they was fresh, they kept themselves together, and I seen a reflection of them in myself,
Right,
so
right.
that was right, and that was a part of it, man. So and it was crazy because as we grew, and once I started getting money, man, one of my guys I started getting money with, me and him became real close. He was a Crip. Actually, we became best friends. He was a Crip. But now we're older. We like 18. This right before I go to prison almost. We get money and everything together. But he knew I come from a blood black background. I knew he come from a Crip background, and actually he was one of the younger Crip shot callers, like where he on front line, you know. He had a heavy reputation in the street, you know, whooping dudes, knocking dudes out, you know, and I seen this and stuff like this. I didn't have that type of reputation. My reputation was more laid back. You're gonna see him with a bad female. You're gonna always see him. He gravitated towards my style, and I gravitated towards his style, and so we became best buddies. So a lot of the guys, even though I grew up over here, they started telling him, "Oh man, you been knowing us way longer. You getting money with this dude, and now you know he's a blood and this and that and woo woo." So it was a lot, man, that I had to deal with, you know, in a situation like this, being from somewhere, growing up here, but not being a part of that organization. Right. You know what I'm saying? And staying true to my guys that I went to school with across town. You know, so it was always something where we would go to the club and I be with my guys and I see these guys and I'm like, okay, it's finna go down. I got to get in the middle of them and be like, hold on, man, y'all, you know, this and that. You know, woo. My blood partners, they telling me, oh man, you know, you our boy, man, this and that. And then the guys who I live with saying, you got to come back home.
See, my situation's much different. Mine was much different, man. I remember my very first day, my mother sent me, I told you about me going to the store, not coming back.
Right.
Very first day that I had that encounter, I left the house. I saw them sitting in front of the school. I'm like, man, these guys, I didn't know what a GD or vice was. I didn't know none of that. I just happened to grow up. I was in the neighborhood of GDs, and I happened to be in a neighborhood where the person that was over the city was the one over that area. So I just happened to be in one of the main areas.
Gotcha.
And so I saw them. I went back into the house, right? I got this little cheap, it was leather jacket, and I put a butcher knife. And keep in mind, this is my impression of what gang life is all about. I put a butcher knife over here. I had this lock that I had with the chain and stuff on. I put that over here, and I went back out. I walked over there, and I just sat there. Now, keep in mind, I'm a 10-year-old just sitting there. And one of the older brothers said, "Hey, man, what you doing? What do you have in your coat?" I got a knife. I'm ready. I'm thinking it's time to fight. I'm here with y'all. Ain't y'all ready? Let's do it.
Right.
And so they was like, "No, man, go take that home, man." So, you know, they called. So my first nickname was Metal Jacket.
Oh man.
Yeah, I had several different names. Shorty Cocktail.
Yeah.
All names had a reason.
Right.
But Metal Jacket was the first one. So I would literally start to mold into that identity because so I hung with them for about a month or so, and then they wanted to bless me in. And unlike, I don't know how it is in certain, like you said, the beat, I didn't experience none of it either. Ours was more of a prayer. You know, they brought you in. You know, we used to always meet in Chicago. You have a lot of these big buildings, not projects, but they're actual like regular residential buildings. But they always have these basements to them where the heater is at.
Right.
And people would go there and meet.
Right.
So once we got access to,
we had meetups and stuff like that.
Yeah. So we would go in there. They turn the light off, and then you get into a circle.
Mm-hmm.
And you know the brother says the prayer. They bless you in. You win. That just made me feel like, man, I'm a part of something.
Right.
I'm really a part of this.
Right.
This organization. From that point on, you're learning. You know, you're learning how the rules and the ways of the street.
Right.
You know, for me as a young brother, I figured the first rule was find all opposition. That was the first rule. Man, me and a couple other younger, you know, we was all 10. Like, we up here going through the neighborhood looking for mugs. You know what I'm saying? Trying to find it, because, you know, and the way Chicago is, sometimes you would have those who were from the other organizations. They would live in the neighborhood and they would sneak out back and forth.
Mm-hmm.
So we always knew where those little blind spots were, or when they were going to school or whatever. So we had to, we'd you know, do our thing with that. We didn't believe that you could just be in the neighborhood.
Yeah.
We believed you had to get dealt with.
Yeah.
We don't care who you were. We would purposely, as we got older, used to have what we call house parties.
Right.
Where people had parties at their house. And I used to invite brothers to my house when my mother was gone, and I had the speakers. And you charge $5 at the door. You filled out the little cards and invite people over, and you know, make a little money, sell a little bag of chips and all that.
Mm-hmm.
But mothers would come to your crib and whatever. But we would purposely sometimes throw those parties to bring out the vice lords, to bring out the stones, that were living in the neighborhood because they didn't know if you were really affiliated or not. And then we would play the trick game. Yeah. Oh, well, being there like, yeah. This first one that went like this ain't that party though, homie. And so that would turn into a whole other problem there. So we were the setup kings. We were purposely going out. We would break out of school in grade school and leave out of grade school, go up to the other grade school where the opposition was, and start fights. It got so bad that the older ones that were on the opposition would want to beat us, but they couldn't handle our older ones. So we would always go out there and just get to mess. So that lifestyle was like, you just felt so official, man. It's like a badge of honor. I am a gangster disciple. This is what I am. You know what I'm saying? You ain't that. You don't know what it is to be that. So we out there, wintertime. I don't care if it was 20 below. We still outside. We out there on the block, right? We soldiering it. We ain't hiding out because it's cold. We're going from, it'd be times when, you would go from one brother's house to another brother's house. Because, none of us, we didn't have a lot of money. Parents didn't have a lot of money. But breakfast time was a weird thing because we would do it. We had some of us had this little ritual where you would go from one house to the next house. So hopefully you went the first house because they rotated sometimes. They eat whatever they can eat. Mm-hmm. Then we get to the next house. Then we get to the next house. Then we get to the next house. And that's how we share brotherhood, right? Mm-hmm. And that's how we dealt with things. That's how we got to know one another. And that's how we, when it came down to that gang bang, we were going to different neighborhoods. We represented. GDs were wild. The two wildest ones in Chicago were the GDs and the Vice Lords. They loved to fight because that's just what it was. They just wanted the war, And so, remember I told you about the little conflict with that area where you had the GDs, the Vice Lords? Mm-hmm. We were in that area, So that's how the neighborhoods were broken up. So we just loved the war. We just wanted to fight. That's all it was. Mm-hmm. And so as time moved forward, they start identifying your natural ability. So I had a play cousin that came out, and he got out of jail and whatever. And so what he did with me was say, hey, I'm gonna give you all this new lit that's coming out. That was the new concept, right? Here go the laws. You gotta learn all these laws. You gotta memorize these laws. You gotta remember, and this stuff was looking like regular schoolwork. I was confused. It looked just like regular. I mean, you can go and sit it down somewhere and nobody would know that was gang-affiliated information, right? So I was being there memorizing pledges and creeds and laws and doing all that because that was mandatory. So the older brothers started recognizing, brothers who were true to it as well as brothers who were bringing it to heart, right? So that having that recognition from older brothers too fed that, right? It made you feel like this is worth me being a part of. So I would go to school and I would tell my teacher, I'm a part of an organization. I know in her head she's probably like, okay. But I was like, hey, this is what I'm a part of. I was proud to represent that banner. I never hid it. Right. Police start me, then what you are? I'm a gangster disciple. Brother is struggle. I mean, it's what it is. I mean, just like you this, I'm that. Right. And that's why we always tell brothers, that's why I always tell brothers now, it's not an issue that you're blood or Vice Lord or Stone or anything like that. That's the organization. At least it's something that you started. Right. That you can put a face that look like you on it. Right. Everything else we have in this world, for the most part, we ain't got no name on it. We didn't brand it. We didn't make it. We can't say it's ours, right? We fall under the authority of somebody else. Right. We made our own authority, right? Every one of those street organizations had some form of structure or authority that they operated from, and that was somewhere deep down, it really spoke to something in everybody. Mm-hmm. And so that's why I say that it's so important, it's very important that these young brothers understand that sense of belonging, we understand that. Right. It's not what you belong to, it's what you're doing after the fact. Mm. And that's something we have to, even when you get into the nation, we can't get into the nation and just be about one thing and do something totally different. Because that literature you got in the street organization was kind of clear. Right. It was positive. Right. It was productive. Right. But what we did was something totally different. So for you, when you became more active after you started making the money, doing all that, mm-hmm. were there things in it that you can look back on? I mean, just from that perspective, that taught leadership, that taught something that were fundamental skills you still use today.
well, honestly, man, I'm sitting here listening to you. See, and I have to say this, like, you being from Chicago, the gang structure was more organized. See, down in Dallas, in Texas, yes, there is literature behind, Bloods. There are literatures behind Perus. There are literature behind Brims. There's literature behind the root of it.
Mm-hmm.
But we know it came from California. Bloods, Crips came. It was birthed out of California.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but we have to understand this too. Is you know by the time it got to us and different generations, um, it wasn't like Crips. Crips started out, and the mission for Crips was, before it was even Bloods,
Mm.
protect the communities,
Mm.
right?
Mm.
Something good to protect the communities.
Yes, sir.
Now, there's an unseen hand that comes in play.
Yeah. Always.
Creates crack, creates division between striving to do something good, to keep that unity, to say, hey, look, we have to police ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
We already see the corruption in the communities, but as the unseen hand creeps in into what we're striving to do good for ourselves, it turns what we're doing good into an impediment. It turns it into corruption.
Right.
So now it's like, by the time I get knowledgeable of Bloods, it's already corrupt.
Mm-hmm.
Ain't no well, we have to understand, what is it, because the my perception was, yeah, these are my guys, this and that, you know, I'm affiliated with a blood gang, and what's around you and what's shaping you is Crips don't like Bloods.
Mm-hmm.
They don't, and it's way more Crips than it were Bloods, and it's like, how can we, certain things we would do,
Mm-hmm.
when I was with my guys, but even my guys who I grew up with in the neighborhood, I used to hang with them every day. If I'm not moving around, I'm with them.
Mm-hmm.
Walking around in the neighborhoods and stuff like this. So it was never and they would be they would be Crips, but it wasn't to the point to where, I mean, they always cuz this, cuz that. What's up, cuz? Cuz and cuz and cuz. So it's a language, of course.
Mm-hmm.
What's up, cuz? And some of them use, hey, what's up, cuz? And it never got to me where I was like, man, don't call me cuz. It wasn't like that, because again, everybody wasn't just like, oh man, not messing with me. We grew up. You know what I mean? We grew up together. So just to I just wanted to make that clear, man, that yeah, even though I was, I had my guys who I hung with, who I was affiliated with Bloods and stuff across town. I still had these guys here that I became cool with a lot of them as well.
Mm-hmm.
So it was nothing where, cause what it was is, my hood is HHGC, Highland Hill Gangster Crip, and we also have HHP, which is Highland Hill Posse. That's what I was a part of. I was a part of Highland Hill Posse, meaning this is just a crew. This is everybody. So HHGC was the gang affiliated part, but HHP was Highland Hill Posse, was all of us, together. You from here, that's just what it was or whatever, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, but as far as like, what type of skills could I take out of that? Being around my blood homies and stuff like that, man. What I would say is this: a lot of times, um, and I'm thankful to Allah, because my guys would go off on certain missions and be like, hey, we finna go do this and we finna go do it. Now I got some stories where I can tell you where we got in the shootouts and this with my blood partners, and we some close calls. But while this is happening, in my head, I'm saying to myself, what the hell am I doing?
Mm-hmm.
Man, what I'm doing?
Mm-hmm.
That was a close call. Man, what the hell I'm doing? And then we'll sit and laugh about it, we'll smoke about it, we'll drink about it, and we'll go on and we.
Again, thank you for having me on, brother. My name is Chief Samori Touri. I am a chief of the Conservative Vice Lord House, chief of finance for the Conservative Vice Lord Nation. I am one of the founders of the Almighty Vice Lord Nation Incorporated and the founder of Conservative Vice Lord Nation Inc. in the state of Georgia. So those are the titles that I hold within the body of the People Nation. My hood is Shady Park. It's a subdivision that's off of Flat Shoals, if you're familiar with College Park in Georgia. And Shady Park was it was actually a nice subdivision. It was a place where military men was using their GI Bills, and old people were living there. I came from a neighborhood where everybody had, two parents in their home, or just about. But this is the early 90s. It's like 91, 92. Because I'm just thinking about as far as I can remember. And I remember going to SL jail cell. That's what we called it, because the teachers always told all the students we were going to jail because we were just that bad. You got to imagine you have this subdivision. We had about 100, at least about 100 black young brothers that hung out all day, every day. That's all we did. We hung out with each other. We played football. We played baseball. We broke into houses. We smashed girls. We did everything we wasn't supposed to do, but because our parents were working. They got to afford these homes. These were nice homes, 3-4 bedroom homes. Big yards and stuff. So they had to afford the homes. So our parents were always gone, which led us to run the streets. So we ran the streets, and that's what we did. And then actually, I met Sergio there. Shout out to Young Gunner. He just got out. A lot of people call him rap, whatever, but they ain't got nothing to do with that. I know the little brother personally. I know his family personally. So I grew up with the brother. I know what was on his head. So shout out King Troop. And see, our neighborhood was the first neighborhood that became an official CRIPS set, Rolling 60 set in Georgia. We was the first set that got put down Rolling 60. I remember King Troop came through the hood and he blessed, I was probably like 12, 13, blessed the whole neighborhood. And the only thing I know, everybody, is we went from playing basketball to selling weed in 1 week. We wasn't selling no little weed. We was 13 years old with pounds. Like I had 3-4 pounds of purple weed back then, middle school. So of course I dropped out of middle school, 7th grade. The hell with that. I'm making $1,000 a week at 13, 14 years old. That's all that we did was smoke weed, ran the streets, steal, rob, shit like that. But I hadn't became affiliated with the Crips at that time, because my big homie did, shout out DZ. He never pushed that on us, because we was like the older kids to the younger kids. And when they brought Crips to them, came through a brother named Leandre, shout out Leandre and King Troop. His dad was connected with King Troop, which brought us in the ability to get blessed in. And me and Leandre, we were best friends, but Leandre daddy didn't like me. Leandre dad did not like me. He always called me that nerd. Like, what that nerdy ass little boy was coming up here, which I was a nerd, but he just didn't like me. So whenever they were trying to do their Crip thing, he was like, nah, he ain't gonna be one of us. He can't hang and all that, but he wouldn't let me be a Crip. So God forbid me from being a Crip. But unfortunately, my father fell underneath the spell of the disease of addiction. Now, like a lot of people did during the 90s, and he lost his job or whatnot due to, his addiction, and we had to move to the projects. So when we moved to the project, living in the suburbs to in the project, that was a big culture difference for me. I had visited the project. My family from Simpson Road. A lot of people familiar with Simpson Road back in the day, Sunset. But I moved to Adamsville, Flatland, 123195 Federal Road. Sheesh, to Jurassic Park. And I didn't grow up with J's at my door. I didn't grow up with people dying on my front porch and stuff like that. Like, we was bad. It was way different. So it took me a little second to adjust because I was bad, but I wasn't no killer at that age. I wasn't I was just getting money. I ain't know nothing about shooting and drive-bys and all that. So when I moved to the hood, when I moved to the west side to the project, I had to change it up. I had to reinvent myself. So, I went from being a little player wheel to blind man. And I couldn't wear my glasses. But if people saw me wearing glasses, that was a sign of weakness. They'd been on my ass every day. So I had the Medicaid glasses. So I had the big, thick glasses. So they wasn't having that, So I took my glasses. I'm walking around. They call me blind man. Grew my hair. Gotta have dreads back then. So I grew my hair out, took the glasses off, became blind man. I took on that identity. And I thugged it. I said I did most of my thugging during that time, growing up in that neighborhood, and I made a name for myself until I was able to figure out what I wanted to do next in my life, which was really, I didn't have no vision of what I wanted to do, but I had a younger cousin, very successful man today. I probably talk later on about him. But he said, bro, you like, man, what we gonna do with our life? We don't got kicked out of school. He like, bro, you on the west side, you finna get killed. I'm hearing all types of stuff about you. We already done lost our older cousin who was my mentor. He was like my big brother. He died to gun violence. He was like, what we gonna do with our life? We like, we gotta do something, graduate something. What we gonna do? I was like, shit, what you wanna do? Like, let's go to Job Corps. Like, shit, they got females? Like, yeah, they got females. Well, let's do it. Shit, fuck it, let's go. We went to Job Corps, Earl C. Clements, Kentucky, Morganfield. We touched down right into the riots, skinheads versus the Haitians. And they was, the Haitians and them skinheads was thumping. They was thumping every day. And then the Bloods and Crips started thumping. And I just so happily was inside a room. I didn't know the brothers were vice lords at that time. They were just, they had their little secret meetings and all whatnot. But I had got into it with a Crip over a Falcons game, Michael Vick versus I think the Eagles or something. I'm bet my money. Oh man, Michael Vick gonna whoop y'all ass, man. 8 time. And the brother didn't want to pay me my money when he lost, so I ended up slapping him. And when I did that, all the Crips heard about it, and they wanted to retaliate. So when they pushed up on me, I was like, it's a lot of y'all, but I only bet one person. Like, if we Crips do, y'all jump people. I'm a neutron. How y'all gonna, jump me? I ain't did nothing to the Crips. I ain't disrespect Crip, man. Owe me my money. So they let me do a one-on-one, and I beat the brother. I gave him the business. And once the vice lord seen that, they was like, we gotta have that brother on our side. So, after a month of reading literature, learning more about what I was becoming or what I was going to be affiliated with, I was brought home to the Vice Lord Nation. And since then I took what the knowledge that I had and brought it back to Atlanta. Started my that's my son right there. He's gonna keep popping his head in and out. I don't know if that's gonna be a distraction or anything, but sit back real quick. I brought it back to Atlanta and started it in Union City, brought my deck, started my first deck. Had about 13, 14 members. But during that time, I wasn't doing the right thing with Vice Lord. I was pimping and selling drugs. So that's how I grew up with inside, Georgia, and that's how I became a Vice Lord. So many words.
So what was it that you saw in your own leadership or eventual leadership that made sense to you as a younger person? You still were younger and been doing your thing. What made the things click in your head about your role as a vice lord to eventually become in the role that you're in now?
I always had a passion to teach, to enlighten, because I'm always fascinated in learning myself, learning new things that could enhance my life, enhance my children and people around me life. So when I would bring ideas to the body or ideas to members, they'd be like, bro, you know, you a smart guy. They always say smart guy, or you in tune. That's one of the words we use, in tune. Like our vibration is on a higher frequency. Like, bro, you're very in tune. And that, I guess that just magnified what we call, and I studied lodestone. Like we're supposed to be magnets. So the knowledge that I was getting was magnified, and it just brought people towards me. You know, my positive energy, my positive way of thinking. I think it just brought a lot of people who live in negative lives, negative way of thinking. It just attracted them to me, and that will cause me to get the attention of the elders, and they saw fit that I should be the one to lead.
Okay. And so with that being said, as you move forward, with vice lords and things like that, and considering where vice lords are at, just street organizations in general, where they're at now, and from where you were coming up, what do you see are the big differences between then and now?
Biggest difference I see now is the media. The media. Back in the days, it was just everything was word of mouth. Everybody had to know each other. It really wasn't even no cell phone. We're talking about the 50s. We're talking about the 60s, 70s. Brothers could not communicate, other than you had to be a family member or somewhat. But now that we have the internet, we got cell phones, we got ways of phones in prison, we can communicate and network on a grand scale. And I think that's the biggest difference, that we have the ability to inform each other in microseconds of things or information that had to be held down, passed down to different leadership. So I think that's the biggest difference.
Okay. Now, with somebody that's been involved in it, as far as through organization for the period of time, and then looking at the fact that, like when we had our discussion, one viewpoint I have is there's nothing wrong when a person they belong to an organization. What the only issue becomes is what that organization is doing, and or where you see that organization going. And obviously, since we've had our conversation, I in my mind, I get that intent that you are seeing the future of vice lords. You have your space in which you can influence that future. What are some things, as far as the messaging? Because when we talk about street violence, gang violence, people got a lot of viewpoints on the messaging on how to stop it, how to curtail it and all that. From your viewpoint, how do you curtail gang violence?
You got to go to the gang leaders. And a lot of these things that's going on when we say gang violence, because the gangs don't have no leaders. They just have people who are sitting in these positions. They have people that just using the name. They're not actually living out what the organization was built on, the foundation, the laws, the principles. Any street organization has a fight in the liberation of Black people. Any street organization has a fight to educate their own, be self-independent. This is why we was created. So the leaders of those times who created that, all that knowledge is gone. It's lost. They want you to be a European. They want you to buy your oppressor, drugs. They want you to buy your oppressor, jewelry and cars and houses. And they give you the facade that they can help you get that, but in reality, they can't. It's an illusion. It's a trick. And that's what makes so many people confused and hate each other, because they feel as though, this gang over there, they stepping on our block and they taking our money. Or this gang over here, they disrespecting us because we ain't running shit how we think we supposed to be running shit. But in reality, we all in the same fucking boat. Excuse my language, we all in the same boat, and we ain't got no captain. We just out there in the storm, because can't nobody read the stars. Don't nobody has the real true knowledge of self. They don't know where they going in life. So if the don't know where they going in life, we're looking at the gang leaders and they around. See, as a leader, you're not supposed to be with your troops all the time. You're supposed to be out here working with other great leaders, putting your team in position to uplift other organizations, to be partnerships and allies to other organizations. Say, how do we stop that? We have to nationally recognize all the leaders of each individual street organization. And anybody who else is saying something else, we need to come together collectively and shut those things down, because that's goofy shit going on. We don't need nobody misrepresentation of our organization, because that's what we call false flagging. So we got to put in all these false flagging leaders out here who calling themselves somebody for no reason. Yep, that's what I got for that.
And it puts me in the mind of a conversation I had earlier with a brother, and he was telling me about, you have organizations, but they do not self-improvement. I think I even talked to you about, even in the nation, we have what's called restrictive laws. We have self-improvement guides. We have those things, because if we take those things out of the equation, the restrictive laws and all that kind of stuff, or the self-improvement guides, or the lesson structure that we have, we fall right in line just like everybody else. But that's the thing that sets us apart, because we get put in a situation where, as an individual, you're obligated to challenge yourself to be more of value, more of consequence than just saying, I'm with this. So you can't just say I'm with this. You got to show and prove always, right? In your household, your relationships, and business. Like you were saying, when you're networking with different people, you're doing that because you understand you're part of a dynamics, and that dynamics has goals and objectives that you want to meet. And so I had talked to you once about, I said, hey, I know, what we do, but helps us. And I want to make sure I'm sharing that with other brothers. Hey, this is what we're doing over here in the nation. But this is what the F.O.I is under, and it threw me off when you with your answer, when you say, hey man, let me see what it is. I mean, if it's something good that I can utilize to help mine, makes sense. And that's a leader. So a leader, like you said, a leader has to be one who thinks outside the box for the most part, right? They can't say, I don't want to hit nothing, I don't want to hit that, because if you lead like that, your people are like that, right? But when you lead more of an open mind, you say, what's going to benefit us? Whatever it's not, then I don't use that. Whatever it is, I use that. And so it sounds like you're trying to solve that riddle of gang violence through accountability, through an individual's accountability and individual's actions, personal actions, not just them saying, hey, I'm vice lord. Okay, you say that, but are you that? And I think that's the direction where you're going more so. And I think that's a good direction for every street organization. It's not just about making money, because if it was just about making money and that was what's the thing that was going to free somebody, then we see that's not working, because you got a lot of brothers making money and they're dying with nothing, because they either get locked up because of the character of the individual. Therefore, they leave children behind. They leave a burden to society. They leave in good women behind. Women got to try to figure out a way to survive, which can throw that into another area. So you're looking more like on the individual, which puts me into the next question about when it comes down to the messaging that you hear a lot of people talking about what should be done and how it should be done. If you were in that position, if you had that space and time to dialogue to, let's say, community organizers and others, even to brothers in the nation, to anyone, and tell them the solution from your viewpoint, what you see needs to be done, what would that be like? What would that sound like?
My message is going to always be economically, spiritually, and physically good for the liberation of our people. And I think the best thing at this time is the STEM programs, not ran by the Europeans, of course, but we need to set up our own STEM program. Now, if you don't know what that means, we're talking about science. We're talking about technology. We're talking about engineering. We're talking about math. We were the inventors of this country. We invented everything. The infrastructure, we made everything. Why are we not doing that no more? Why are we taking these Walmart jobs? No disrespect for those who take a Walmart job. Why are we settling for jobs when we were the creators of the jobs? We are inventors. We are scientists. Now all these things are frowned upon. Now all these things are a thing of a past. Like who wants to be a scientist? Who wants to build technology? Who wants to be an engineer? That's who we are. That is our essence. We have lost that essence. We have become slaves. We're just working on the plantation. Anybody who got a regular job, it will tell you I'm on the plantation, clocking in, clocking out. No service to the people. No service. I'm just out here making somebody else rich. We have to take our youth out of these public schools, which ain't nothing but a pipeline to prison or education. You have to unlearn all the BS they taught them, and we got to teach our own. We got to get our greatest minds, our greatest inventors, and let them teach our children. Let them build a nation of thinkers, creative people. Because when we create, that's when we do our best. We don't want to be told what to do. We don't need to be told what to do. We have a mind of our own. We have to unlock the mind of our youth, get them off this TikTok, YouTube. When they watch it, I say, I don't understand how you watch somebody else create content when you're supposed to be the creator of content. Once we get the minds of these children to be focused on science, technology, engineering, and mathematics, I think that will solve all our problems when it comes to building the nation.
I had a question in here, and it was like, does money and jobs create the solution? And I still want to ask that question, even though you kind of hit on the other things. But tell me, does money, your viewpoint on money and jobs, does that cause a real solution?
No, absolutely not. It's part of the illusion. They're nothing but labor vouchers. A job is nothing but a place to keep you occupied from using your own mind, keep you focused on whatever your payer or employer wants you to focus on. I don't. For what? For what? You work all your life for what? You can gain all the money for what? What you gonna do with it? Give it back to somebody else? Mm-hmm. Doesn't inspire the minds of the youth. It doesn't. It's an illusion. It's nothing. It's paper. The job, you worked that job for 30 years, you look back and say, I could have did so much more in my life. I could have touched so many other people's lives. Only we just believed in ourselves. Then life would be so much different. I really believe that. So no answer is no money, jobs. You can keep that. It's people coming across the border right now who ready to get those jobs. Let them have it.
Mm-hmm. See, and that goes back to the point of that understanding. So that's part of the message that when we talk about meet the F.O.I. in the Nation of Islam, we are already being programmed on that. Like, look, man, do for self, do something for your own people, build. It's right here. It's wide open field for the wide open man and woman. Do it, make it happen. And so if we're all on that same page and we understand that, then the thing is to push one another in those directions and work together, like you say, work together. Like a band of brotherhood of allies, at the end of the day, something you got on the table, we need to figure it out, so that's part of the purpose of Meet the F.O.I. podcast is to bring these different areas of individuals and say, hey, man, you're part of what you're part of. That's good. That's the thing, you know what I'm saying? But what do we need to do to change, to transform the ghettos and turn them into paradise? And that's on us, nobody else. So now the next thing is, who now it's a dumb question I'm going to ask, but I always ask anyway. I am going to ask, who do you think profits from gang violence?
I call it the PPP. Politics, prisons, and police. The prisons are they gonna get that. You back on the real plantation then, so they need you to be violent. They need you to catch them cases. They need you to do them 10, 20, 40 years for free. And the politics need somebody to be a demon to get elected. Oh, we're gonna stop the violence. We're gonna stop the gang violence. We're gonna get them out of here. We're gonna put RICO cases on all the people. We're gonna do whatever we can do to lock them black brothers up. Make new laws to lock up the kids, juvenile, It's 16, 15 life sentences. They profit. That's money. They got you for the rest of your life. That is money. They have eliminated you from doing anything that can uplift yourself or lift your people. So they blocked you and they got you working for free. And then the police, if it ain't no crime, there ain't no reason to have 400, 300 officers. Ain't no reason to be funding $3 million, $4 million for somebody to eat donuts. They lose. No crime, no money. Everybody know that. We know this. So they need us to do crime. They if they can't find a way for us to commit a crime, they'll do the crime themselves and say we did it. So yes, those three property, the PPP, police, politicians, and the prisons. They get all the money.
Now, this next question is, again, the reasoning behind why we started F.O.I. I just started adding this question at the end because it does boil down to that. The whole purpose of the Nation of Islam has always been about lifting our people up. But it's also been about working with the different organizations to collectively come to solutions and actually get things done. And now this is going to be a question specific to where you are, right? What do you think? And just be real with it, man. I mean, a man has to be. You've been real anyway. I'm just saying it in this way, but we're men, so we having a real conversation about things that we have our viewpoints on, or what have you. You just happen to be a brother that has the capacity to influence other men, and that's important. What can the F.O.I, the School of Islam, do to work with you, to collaborate with you, to aid? What is it that you want from the F.O.I? Knowing the history of the nation, knowing what the minister's about, seeing what the nation does, and what have you. What can the F.O.I do with you, work with you on, or what have you, to aid you in what you're doing to get solutions?
I thank you for that question. I personally believe, for myself, for the state of Georgia, we need a safe haven for when we meet. Because I don't want to pull up with my lords and worry about a rival chief, shooting or trying to take me out. Or we get inside a meeting and then, 20 brothers over here don't like the other 10 brothers. We get in there and start to fight. We got to have a mediator. And that's not only with this, the vice lords. I think we need to have a place where the Bloods can do their powwow and the Crips can get together and we can all meet together under the influence that we are here for the color of our skin. We're here for our people. We're not here for our individuality organization, but we're here as a collective. We don't have that place nowhere where it's a what you call gun-free zone. Gun-free, no shoot zone. Everybody here with the same purpose. We need that. We need a place where gangs can, if I got a problem with these brothers, I can come to y'all and y'all get in touch with their big homie and we can have a sit down because a lot of stuff can get sat down. A lot of people don't have to die. A lot of people don't have to get beat up. And we just ain't nobody speaking. We don't have nobody. If brother come to me and say, I got a problem with the Crips, I only got another thing to do. I can go gang bang, or I can go talk to the Crips. Crips ain't going to hear shit I got to say. I'm a op. But if I come with the Bloods and I come with the Latin Kings and the GDs, and we say, brother, we come in peace. We need you to come on in and come talk to us. I think they'll accept that way, way quicker than me just telling them, come on, they're going to meet up at the park. We already know how that's going.
That's a setup. Like, hey, wait a minute, man. But, okay, so I like that. And I like that because part of the reason that I'm keeping that question in with literally everybody, because that's part of what I'm going to utilize, because I know that's something that's needed, but it's also what's needed as a ground, as a base to functionally do anything else. You can't go talking about, hey, let's go do this, let's go do that. You can't even have brothers sit down together. They can't even dialogue. They can't even get into the same room with them. They can't do nothing. I'm meeting with a brother this Saturday who is he's a Crip. I mean, he's a Crip, and he had a podcast. His question was, can we get back to the 1992 gang truce where the Bloods and Crips were doing their thing? And I watched that podcast, and the question, the reasoning I came to was you can, but the reason it probably fell apart because you have to change lifestyle too. You can't. You can be what you're going to be, right? But you have to change. There has to be some self-improvement guidelines in play, straight up, real, because that's why brothers end up fighting one another, killing one another, because there's no restrictions. There are no actual policies in place between them that they have to adhere to first. Like, I'm gonna use this example, but I gotta use it. But it's like back in the day when we used to watch the old mob movies, when the mob, all the different mobs were just killing one another, and then mob say, "Oh, hold on, man, we're gonna have a committee. You can't do this without authorization. You can't do that." Matter of fact, you were looking at that man's wife. You in violation.
Right.
You can't act on your own because now that don't make any sense. Even at that level, they had their restrictions, right? You then also have to look at what destroyed the mob after that. They had those restrictions, so that kind of kept them at bay, but what really destroyed them was the fact that they still were pushing the drugs. They still were doing all this. They still were doing all that. And that is part of, like in the nation, you can't do none of that at all, period. None of that. You out of that. But that's what protects us often because of those restrictions. How do you offset that? When you, like you said, when you get these brothers together, now you can talk about economic development, pooling resources. Now you can talk about bam, bam, bam to solve that problem. So the brother can't say, well, how are we going to eat? You can't talk about how you're going to eat if you're out there doing what you're doing. You can't talk about alternate ways because you got the numbers. One brother mentioned one thing. He's like, hey, you got a neighborhood. Let's say it's 300 Vice Lord, Stone, Gigi's in that vicinity of community, whatever. You telling me y'all don't know how to if a business like a major corporation comes in setting up shop, you don't know how to send a representative in and say, look, I don't know, but this can't work well in this neighborhood because we need to have a certain amount of money going here to help these type of programs for these young kids, and we need to do this, and we have something structured that we have in place for this community to build it, to keep it clean, to do this, that, and other. But money has to come in. If you're gonna make money, it's like anything else, like charity, tithing. If you tithe in one, just like when you go to church to tithe because you expect the church to utilize that money to do X, Y, and Z. When you have something, you have something set up in that community, you can't just be coming in there talking about, well, I'm doing this, I'm gonna market this, I'm gonna sell this, I'm a rapper, I'm doing a concert, but I'm not sitting down with the people saying, hey, I know as a community you need X, Y, and Z. And if I don't contribute to that X, Y, and Z, I'm not really down for that community. So ain't no money coming to you from this community. There ain't got to be no. Some people might say, oh, you talking about extort? No, you just stop. You ain't got to extort. You ain't even got to protest. Shut it down. Right. Ain't no money coming. That's what you respond to. That's how we respond. And then they'll come back to you later and say, yeah, let's, I understand because, we ain't been able to sell the way, because every big corporations operate off the numbers. If them numbers ain't this way, it's going the opposite direction. That's the only time they talk, when the numbers turn U-turn. They U-turn from north to south, they start talking. So I think that would be something in the back of your head to think about, is that's where we would be going, in the direction where brothers understand what their true financial power is to get monies to do the things, and pooling resources, secondly, with those that's in the community. Because the community ain't going to pool no resources with nobody if they're in fear.
That's right.
If they're in fear. They're like, I don't know about all that. So that's what the personal accountability, like when they did the Million Man March, it was about personal accountability, accepting the fact of what you have done. Like for myself, we know what we have done. So we hold an accountability. But if we're willing to do that and act accordingly and show and prove, we ain't got to, beg and plead and like, can you please? No, I'm a Tony. This is what it is. This is what I'm doing. I don't need to get groveling. I ain't gonna do that. I don't think you're gonna do that. You know what I'm saying? But it's that my faults, and I know my faults, and so therefore I'm trying to correct in this way. So I think you're hitting it on the right head, as far as the things that can be done. We have our solutions, man, as long as we can clearly think them out. And this is where I think the podcast is going to help us be able to.
Message to the vice lords. We always talking about, that's right. We always talking about reflection. Everything we see, everything we do, say, is being reflected and being seen by our children. And I hope that we are in our children's lives, because that's the only way we're going to be able to build our nation, is by building up our children. And I personally want to put the I don't want to say burden, but the importance of us fathers becoming better fathers for our children. A lot of us came to this organization because we did not have fathers. We did not have father figures. Become that father figure for your child. And if not your child, somebody in your community. That's the only way that we're going to be able to liberate our people, is by becoming who we're supposed to be. Those are the fathers and the teachers of our communities and neighborhoods, and also our families. So that's the biggest thing I got for everybody. You could be a great father. Sometimes that's even better than being a great vice lord. So if you can be a great father, hey, you there. So that's all I want to put out to the brothers, man. Love your children. Be there for them. Educate them. Talk to them. Discipline with love. Be there. That's it. That's all I got.
So here we. So the main thing that we try to focus on is the subject matter about what you were discussing about in 1992, when there was a gang truce and everything, and how that worked. So we're going to build on that. But I always like to have everybody introduce themselves so that, they know who you are, that good stuff. So I'm going to go ahead and let you go ahead and set that off.
All right. Can you hear me clear still?
I can hear you good.
My name is Al-Jihad Shabazz. Born and raised here in Oklahoma City. I've been a part of the whole gang culture since the mid-'80s. Well, I grew up around in the mid-'80s. Actually became affiliated in 1990 when my big brother had came from Compton, California, and formed Oklahoma City Nutty Block Compton CRIPS chapter here in Oklahoma City. This is in 1990. In that time, I got to, I'll say I was going through the same thing the average brother was going through, as far as, being a president, in and out of youth authority, all the way to, juvenile county jail, all the way up to prison. I've been out now since I was 26 years old, so I'm going on like 18 years. I get off parole in the next 4 years. I'm a father. I'm actually going to be a new father. I got a new goddess on the way right now. Got all my children. My oldest son, he actually passed away. Somebody actually shot my oldest boy.
Try to step back. Try to step back a little bit. There you go.
Yeah, my oldest boy, he was murdered September 9th, 2020.
Wow.
Rest with the ancestors. May Allah be pleased with him. My oldest son, Kerry. It's been a whole trial. It's been a whole trial as far as growing up, the way I did, But also in that time, I don't take nothing back, because that's how I actually found the Nation of Islam. Also, going through that trial when I went to O.Y.A. In 1992, a brother had came up there. The first time I ever heard heard the teachings of the most honorable Elijah Muhammad, Farrakhan, Dr. Khalid Abdul Muhammad. You know, I heard that when I was like 15 years old. You know what I mean? Like, well, 14 or 15, somewhere in that range. When I first had met, it was some guys that came up to the Oklahoma Youth Authority, and those guys was actually like talking to the, I guess what they call it, the juvenile delinquent. They was coming from outside trying to talk to us or whatever, and the dude that happened to be talking to me, this brother was in the nation. You know what I mean? So kind of like the nation, kind of like always been in my, you know, how you say it, been in my path for many years. You know what I'm saying? So yeah, but that's basically all about me. I mean, you know, I used to go by the name Homicide. You know, long story short, I done, you know, like I said, anything as far as the average gangbanger done did, you know what I mean? It's a good chance I done did it, you know. But right now, I look at myself more as a revolutionary, you know what I mean? Instead of a gangbanger, I don't look at myself as no gangbanger. You know, I look at myself more as a revolutionary, you know what I mean? Because I know that some of God's strongest soldiers is still out here in the streets. You know what I mean? I'm basically a brother that's trying to prove that point, you know.
When it came down to it, when you heard about the gang truce in '92, right? Saw how that was playing itself out. What from the very first moment of it, what were your thoughts on that gang truce? Believable, unbelievable? This ain't gonna last, man. This be dope. That it's gonna last type of deal. What were your thoughts on it?
Man, don't you know, like when that happened, was that '92?
Yeah.
I was like basically 13 going on 14. And to keep it 100, we were seeing it. No, just put it up there. So I apologize. We were seeing it on the news, but like I said, there was a lot of West Coast influence in Oklahoma, so there was a lot of homies from the West Coast. You know what I mean? They kind of took it to heart because, you know, even though they was in Oklahoma, you know what I mean, that still happened in their land, and they seeing their people riled up for it. You know what I mean? So. You know, like at this time, Oklahoma's kind of like, you know, still in the learning stage or whatnot. So, so you know, basically, when they got mad, shit, we got mad right along with them. So, so everything that was happening in California not to the extreme, but it was basically like a small little racial issue right here in Oklahoma City, and in other places in Oklahoma, like Tulsa. You know what I mean? It was a lot of. I mean, keep 100. There's a lot of white folks getting. You know what I'm saying? Not to the point of murder, but just getting the shit beat out of them.
Okay, I understand.
Yeah. So at that time, for my personal thoughts on it, you know what I mean? Because at the time, I'm off the porch. You know what I mean? I'm doing all types of crazy shit at 13 and 14. So. At my time, it was just like shit. It was blacks against the whites. That's just basically how I looked at it. Like the white police beat up this cop, and you know what I'm saying. And my older homies from California is mad about it. So and I don't like shit anyway because it was just something that was naturally in me, just not to think that shit was cool to be just, you know, be getting beat on by a damn white kid. You know what I mean? Especially how, you know, how we think how they did us. Do us every day in the projects and whatnot, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, my bad. So all in all, I mean, it was basically like a race thing. You know what I mean? That's what it was. It was blacks against the whites. I mean, that's basically what it was, and it was certain altercations that happened here in Oklahoma City. In other places, like I said, that they knew it was a racial thing, but it's like we know when they did the truce in 9 Deuce. I mean, we attempted it here in Oklahoma City, but I don't know. Like I said, we attempted it, but just to keep it real, that shit didn't last long. You know what I mean? And like I believe, like other brothers believe that some of these the hoods that try to attempt it at that time, you know what I mean, I feel personally that the police, you know what I mean, I'm talking about sellout Negro coon ass police was riding through people's neighborhoods, yelling out different hoods and shooting them up, and got that whole thing started back up. And I feel it happened also here in Oklahoma also.
Well, that's not an uncommon thing. I know when in Chicago we had these two cops. One was called 6 Point, one was called David in particular, and they would drop you off in the opposition hood, say, hey, here you go, and you had to make it back.
Oh, yeah,
you know what I'm saying? And it would be back and forth. Now, these were times when we weren't even doing anything. I mean, literally, these were times when we didn't even have a conflict. You know what I'm saying? And they would do that. And I mean, we weren't thinking, but we felt like, well, you know, we understand that. But if you move on, we got to respond. So it's like, you know, it's a catch-22 at that point, because that's the street code. Like, I mean, it's got to play itself out. So I don't doubt that. And I don't doubt that's happening even up until today, because for that mindset to exist then, and you still see certain areas where sudden rises in crime happen, and you start wondering, wait a minute, wait a minute. And then on top of that, you're not even catching the people. You know what I'm saying? These are mysterious happenings. Then it starts making you wonder, let's be truthful. It ain't got nothing to be, it ain't a conspiracy theory. It's a real theory. If you're from the street, you start analyzing, you start wondering, like, man, we were cool. I mean, at least we weren't in conflict. Let's put it like that. We weren't cool. We weren't in conflict. How did that all?
Yeah, we had to understand it.
Right. So that's a valid point on that end. And again, when you think about that, and you think about the reality, let's talk about reality. Okay, you decrease gang violence and all that by 30-40% across the country. It sounds good, right? You come on, I'm gonna help decrease it by 30-40%. But if you just sent the right message, but it's two sets of ears. It's two sets of ears hearing it. The ones of your own, it's like, man, this is good. So this is good. Then another set that's like, man, you messing up our money, our prisons, all the money that go through prisons. You messing up the money that we allocate for all these other programs that we hiring our own people for. You messing up a lot of cash flow. So y'all got to get out there and start. You messing up the gunman. Those guns they got on the street that ain't the top grade guns. You messing that money up. You messing up our money. You messing up the money that fuel our economy. So being real with it, let's be real with it. The more we focus on doing that, by default, our unity also causes a real reality, right? That's the thing that we mentally have to. That's why when we decided to do meet the F.O.I podcast, we were like, when we start doing this with brothers, in the summertime, we're going to be going into the areas, right? And bringing that podcast right to the ground level and in areas and situations where those things are happening, and actually pulling brothers who are actively doing things, like no matter what they're part of, and then other brothers who are doing actual things, but reminding them that, hey, if you study the history from back in the 60s, when things like that were happening, your biggest problem, one with your own, your biggest problem with those entities, those letter gangs that were interfering. So for the truth aspect of it, we understand that, it didn't stick. We know that would happen, not necessarily because of the brothers, but because of outside forces. How do you see dealing with that going forward, though? Because, history repeats itself often. We kind of think that it won't, or the people are ignorant to the past and they don't catch the clues of what's happening. How do you deal with that going forward when you're trying to, link our brothers up, trying to make things happen? How do you deal with the same tricks that were played then now?
When you say the same trick, you're saying as far as like trying to bring people together, and then you got the infiltration type shit going on? Yeah,
because remember, like in Chicago, for instance, it was the FBI hitting up Jeff Ford, trying to turn him against the Black Panthers. You know what I'm saying? You had a lot of the youth, quote unquote, youth gangs that were being stigmatized as the viruses in the community, while at the same time they were just trying to figure out how to make their next move. And then when you had poverty pimps come in, I call them poverty pimps, organizations who really didn't come in with the intent to solve, but the intent to just manage the situation. Then you had them coming into play.
Like NAACP type shit, right?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Because I mean, let's be real. The history that a lot of these brothers remember is that when the politicians needed to vote in the street, they went to the young. They always use the term the young kids, but really they were affiliated.
Yeah.
But when it came down to real things that needed to happen, they were like, "Nah, we're good. We got what we needed." So how do you deal with that going forward, knowing that you have a history, a track record of one deceit on our own end from those who we assume are there to help, and then you have agencies who that kind of unification does not benefit the bottom line? How do you deal with that going forward?
I feel it's a simple thing, brother. I'm thinking when we start putting our finances together for those that's like-minded, that's really like-minded, that really want to, do for self. If we was to all come together on a financial tip, because we can't have any type of power if we don't have no financial backing. So I feel personally, and to me, I say it's simple, but because people be like, well, it would have been done if it wasn't simple. But I'm gonna say it's simple because if you got all these like-minded individuals that really want true freedom, that just how the brother of Farrakhan Muhammad, Ben X did, and other brothers and sisters with the Hear Out the Forms.
Right.
I feel what we messed up back in those days is that we were still amongst them. We still didn't have nothing. Like if we had something like when the Black Panthers was popping, and we would have had something like like a Black Wall Street, like
right.
You know what I'm saying, like 1921. I don't think it would have went that easy because for one, we wouldn't even had no dealings with those people at all. See, we gotta say we still behind enemy lines, even though we can get headquarters set up all over, different mosques, different temples, whatever set up all over. We still behind
enemy line.
You know what I mean? Now, if we off the grid being self-sufficient, you know what I mean, while teaching, we know the Panthers, of course, believe in teaching gun training and self-defense and all that. And then, of course, you got the nation with the self-defense training. Brother, I feel if we come together and put 10,000 people with $100 a month, that's $1 million a month, brother. That can fund a lot of goddamn shit. Mm-hmm. That can fund a lot of land. So I'm feeling where it messed up back in with the whole revolution thing with the Panthers and all other Black organizations is that where I feel that we dropped the ball at is that we didn't put no financial plan behind this so we can get away from these people. The whole point is that we still want, for some reason, we feel like we still got to be amongst these motherfuckers. We don't have to.
Right.
So I personally feel that if we do that, this go around, and I'm speaking to all the street tribes and whoever else, dude, if we was to do this, get 10,000 brothers on the same page, it ain't got to be 10,000. It could be shit, hell, 1,000, whatever. I'm saying just somebody on the same page of putting money together and putting it up. We can go start buying land. We start buying land, we can start building on it. So now we have something to protect. But all this bullshit, to me personally, that's why I don't be in the streets no more yelling out the whole Black Power thing and doing these marches and all that. It's because it's nothing but talking. We're nothing but fucking talking. You know what I mean? We need some money put back for some lawyers, some doctors. And it's not hard. I understand if it was a hard ass thing, but if you look at a lot of these so-called conscious channels, woke channels, they be having thousands amongst thousands, you know what I'm saying, of subscribers.
Yeah.
So if these people really give a damn, basically, I would say I don't believe it'll be hard to go to different to what 10 different people you know with 20 different people you know, and everybody was to do that. That really, I really believe that we can come up with that meal ticket to start off with the first acres of land and started breaking ground and all that other type stuff.
Right. And you're not wrong. I know when the nation started the 3-year economic program, and all the ministers said, "Hey, man, $5, $3, pooling resources." I mean, it's not rocket science. The nation right now has, I think, about 1,500 or 1,600 acres of land, and then you see the thing. But that comes from people not understanding it. What if everybody? It's not rocket science. You're right. See, the frustration you had. That's why we did the show in this way. We don't do the show where we say, "Man, what black people should do," and this, that, and other. We do it like, "Hey, what's your thoughts? What's your sensibilities of it?" Because what you're saying is right and exact. You don't have to be preachy about it. You're just saying, "Hey, man, I don't see the rocket science behind it." You know what I'm saying? It's plain and simple. Pool of resources, get the land, defend the land. Because once you get it, you got to defend it. You got to grow on. You got to do what? You own that land, you got to provide the school because you got to teach the kids. Once you own that land, you got to do what? You got to have doctors, right? You got to take care of people. Once you own that land, you got to create industry. You know what I'm saying? So it's not rocket science, but the land is the foundation. You know what I'm saying? And you have a lot of people who have a lot of land, like this one organization, church, or whatever, they were talking about, which didn't make sense to me, but they were talking about the growing marijuana, but it's the church saying that if you smell weed, you can get up with these brothers and you can grow marijuana, and they can that's how you get them into the church. That don't make sense because you're not really teaching them anything. They just become good drug dealers in a church. You know what I'm saying? But you're not teaching them self-development. You're not giving them the principles. So it actually contradicts most of what, from the Panthers to the nation to the real foundational things of being accountable truly and building something and nation building. It contradicts that. So some people do have some weird concepts on how to do that, but the simplest of it was the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. Say, "Let man, just pool your resources, make it happen." It's not rocket science, because even back in those days with the nation, the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, he was pooling resources. What were they doing? Restaurants, bakeries, farmland, bank, this, that. And so it showed that it can be done. You know what I'm saying? And I think with the street organizations, the way they're set up, and the wide range in which they set up. A lot of these brothers, man, they get out of jail, they don't have nothing to go to. They need to be on the land somewhere, building. Get them out of these cities and get them somewhere where they have they can actually really restart their life and actually build something. So with that being said, the logic in it, what would be your you see some brothers, man, of course, we ain't talking about the preachy stuff, but you see brothers and you see they got a twinkle in their eye of trying to get some understanding about, doing certain things. What direction would you go with those brothers and trying to carry over that message to them?
You gotta let them know. You gotta let them know that, like the brother told me when I was 14, 15 years old. Shit, he told me I was God. Mm. And when he told me that, it messed my head up. I'm like, you know what I mean? Like I said, you talking to a little young ass gangbang. I'm like, nigga, Jesus is God. What are you talking about? Then when he got to breaking it down, like for us, like we the only people on this planet that ain't got no beginning, no, you know what I mean? You gotta let them know why they got that soldier spirit in them. See, me personally, my approach is that I don't tell none of them to leave their hood. I just say put the revolution back in. You know what I mean? Because my whole thing is that when it comes to, you know what I mean, let's speak on CRIPS, community revolution in progress. You know what I mean? The big word that sticks out of all those words are revolution. It's revolution. You know what I mean? And the reason why that sticks out more is because that means you got to start inside your house. First, you got to revolutionize your mind.
Right.
And then from your mind, you revolutionize your house. You know what I mean? Like I can bring any of my boys out here right now. I got both my boys there. Well, I got my other babies too, but they somewhere else. But right now, I got both of my boys. I can ask them, who is God? They're gonna point at themselves. You know what I mean? So you're gonna have to start that in your house, and
Right.
then once you get your house revolutionized, so now any, you know what I mean, the law of attraction really starts to happen, because when people see that, like me, I'm a Crip, but a lot of people say that I talk different, I move different. You know what I mean? I'm on this whole Black Power thing. You know what I mean? You know what I mean? Because I'm pretty sure you've seen it in some of my videos. I start off with like Black Power Crip life. Those who know me know this. You know what I mean? And the reason why I say that, because that's what it is. You know what I mean? It's about Black Power. You know what I mean? Black Power is not shooting a nigga down to show you how hard you are or no shit like that. That shit is nothing. Especially when we got a real live beast that makes them little pop guns that we got in the hood look like shit. You know what I mean? I'm a truck driver. So one day I had to do a delivery on some bullets out here in a place called out here in Oklahoma called Stillwater. And I forgot the white boys' names. But man, when I walked in that warehouse, brother, I'm talking about ammunition. These, man, come on, man. I walked in the warehouse. You know what I mean? These white boys is getting ready. For real getting ready.
Right.
You know what I mean? So this little shit that we doing out here, a lot of us are out of shape. You know what I mean? I got to speak for myself. I got to get back on my shit. You know what I mean? A lot of us are out of shape, smoking, drinking. And like I said, we have no organization. No, you know what I mean? Because now it's at the point where the little homies like is telling the big homies, you can't tell me shit. But I can understand why, if the big homies is not being an example of what it is to be, you know what I mean, a true Crip, a true revolutionary. That's where I stand at. You know what I mean? Because I'm willing to go not only to war with the enemy, the real enemy, I'm willing to go get into it with my own, because basically I look at it, any nigga that disagree with how I feel for us, with Black people, and for us how I'm doing my cripping. If anybody, that nigga gotta be a snake. He gotta be a snake. Mm-hmm. I mean, there's no way around it. You know what I mean? If you see that I'm trying to make it where we can uplift the hood, just like my hood alone. You know, we got headquarters in Compton, California. We got then we got the Oklahoma City chapter, and then we got another chapter in Hot Springs, Arkansas. If those three, just those three, that's all the hood that is called Nutty Block. If those three cities right there just was to come together on a financial tip, dude, we can employ our own people. We can, I mean, literally sustain our own way of living. And we don't have to ask some Billies for shit. You know what I mean? So that's how I don't mean to kind of drift off. I'm kind of good at doing that.
Still on point. You ain't drift off.
Yeah. But basically, that's how I would get at that little brother, to let him know, like, okay, cuz it's cool you're a Crip. You know what I mean? And I love it. You know what I mean? But what those niggas is telling you to do, because I'm gonna tell them to go back and look at his environment. All the ones that tell you to go be a shooter and all that, 9 times that these niggas living with their baby mama. These niggas ain't got nowhere to stay. These niggas ain't got no stock building up, no saving no stock, ain't doing, you know what I mean, probably ain't even good pops. You know what I mean? They tell you to go do
lawyers for your case.
Okay, exactly, right? You know what I mean? If you get locked up, and I always question them like that. And they like I said, some of the niggas my age, like, really do not like how I speak to the little homies. I know they don't. You know what I mean? Because I'm trying to get them off like, nigga, don't you know we could be the most powerful ass hood if we was to do this economic blueprint, and then on top of that, we not gonna be beefing with nobody. But if somebody come fucking with us, you know what I mean? Even that you see that we on a whole other tip. Now, if you come fucking with us, we have the right as human beings to defend ourselves.
That's right.
You know what I mean? That's just a right. But don't make that right only for our people. Meaning that if that fuck ass Billy come through with that bullshit, we gotta have that same energy. That same fucking energy. Bullets is bullets to me. You know what I mean? I'm not worried about which one can knock me down. Bullets is fucking bullets. You know what I mean? So the energy that we have towards each other, that's nothing I tell young brothers. Nigga, don't be a punk ass nigga when it comes to that crack either. You got energy for your own kind, nigga. Don't be no gay ass nigga. You know what I mean? When it comes to when it comes to dealing with that business, don't touch your tail.
Don't touch. Yeah, and see that becomes the thing. See, I know that And one of the things we want to make sure that people get, we have to mention this earlier, and we did it on this episode when we did the recording. You know, a lot of the language and the communication we have to keep reminding people that this ain't the kind of podcast where, you know, it's got knowledge, it's got, you know, you hear it, but you got to hear real talk too, because how you gonna help your people deal with your people if you don't understand where they're coming from? You just, then at that point, what you're doing is you becoming a dictator in your approach. You just gonna tell them how they gonna do it versus understand how they see it, so that you can build it from that point of view. So it's not like a lot, even these brothers that's on the street, man, they really, it's just they see things a little different. And part of that difference is because they don't have guidance. You know, and if they had proper guides, they would see things different. And it takes them to get locked up when they face them 15 years. Or, you know what I'm saying? It takes them to find out that they homie, who they thought was their homie, because he ain't working with nothing. He's snitching on them. So all that hard stuff and all that thug stuff that went out the door, when that piece of paper get put in front of you, say, sign this, and you can do, and you get you some less time here, and they do it. See, all that go out the window. So that's important, that a lot of these young brothers hear the right message, not a message where they're getting preached to, but a message where they can understand. They get it. So you gotta talk to, if they want to be men, you gotta talk to them like men.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. That's one thing that I have to confess is that our brothers done went through a whole hell of a lot. I know I can vouch for that because I'm one of those brothers. You know, so when you come to them, you know, even if you ain't trying to act like you above them, like you literally have to come to understand. Well, like right now, me and you talking, and I know that you're a brother of the nation, but me, you want to talk about gangs? I can't sugarcoat it for you. I can give you right. I can give you what's actually being said out here. You know what I mean? And you know, a lot of our brothers, I'm not gonna lie, a lot of our brothers gave up on a lot of religious sects, I would say. Yep, you know what I mean? And the reason why is because, like I said, we not really, and this is my personal opinion. You know what I mean? I feel that what has actually been said to me is like, what are y'all doing for the community, man? Like, I hear y'all out here, you know what I mean? But what are y'all, you know what I mean? Like, what's really going on? Like, there is no, especially I always say in Oklahoma, I be telling them, I be getting people mad because I be like, you niggas in Oklahoma shook, man. Ever since Tulsa, nigga, they got y'all scared the motherfucker to rob for your own people. You know what I mean? And that's something I say, you know what I mean, to a lot of people from Oklahoma, you know what I mean, for the gangsters. You know what I mean? Like, you know, these crackers got y'all shook, man. You know what I mean?
You're right and exact on that. So that's why I said it's that's gonna be the interesting part of it. And that's the reason when we did Meet the F.O.I, it was like the brothers in the nation getting them more actively engaged, and then with the brothers that's in the streets, but actively coming up with things based upon what people understand what needs to be done. Nothing complicated. Nothing that we've talked about is complicated. It's not, let's go build a rocket. We're not saying let's go build a rocket. And so if we do that, then we're putting our money where our mouth is. And then from there, pooling resources is not rocket science. You know, you don't have to, we're not saying every brother got, man, you get 20 grand. No, pool your resources and you start doing what the Jews do. You start doing what the Asians do, the Palestinians do, and all of them that come into our neighborhood. They are not rich when they come to the neighborhood. They pool their resources. Even them Africans do that. The Africans come over here and do the same thing. You go into the neighborhood, you see African stores, African this, African that. They follow the formula. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? Cultural thing with them, but they're following a formula. And force that formula. But it has to come from these old heads that's so busy worried about the young heads following them, but they can't follow when they ain't leading.
Yeah.
They ain't follow with So yeah, but
I'm with you, man. I'm always with you on that, bro. Like I said, like it's just something that I visualize all the time, man. Like especially like I said, when the words that were said by the most honorable Elijah Muhammad, like it makes sense. Like, dude, we can literally see heaven in 24 hours, man. 24 hours. Only thing we got to do is simple. It's the most simplest and the most hardest step for the black man and woman to take, and that's to unify. You know what I mean? Like brother Ben X, he had made he had said something. I believe the minister was saying he had made an example for us. Like it was a man that was drowning. You know what I mean? And the man was on a house, and the house was flooded, and the man is about to drown. So a brother from the nation pulled up with a rope, but it wasn't long enough. You know what I mean? So then Israelite pulled up, he threw his rope, you know what I mean? It still wasn't long enough. You know what I mean? The man's still drowning. You know what I mean? And then you got let's say a brother from the Panther Party or whatever. He pull up, he throw his rope, you know what I mean? And it's still too short. But and I'm just paraphrasing this, but he made it where, you know what I'm saying, where it made sense. Like, okay, if y'all crazy Negroes put all those ropes together, you know what I mean, and throw it out to our brother, you can save him. You know what I mean? So basically, in so many words, that all whatever your belief system is, man, let nature run this course. That's one thing I do love about the Nation of Islam. One of the things is that we the nation don't push, you know what I mean, for you to be a Muslim or be with the NOI. It's not. We just lead by example.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yes, sir, man. I just want to say, man, I appreciate you having me on your show.
Hey, everybody, this is Shinobi Muhammad, also Brother Alonzo X. Just to let you know, there are 3 projects we're working on. As a photographer, normally, when I charge a little bit higher rate, but what I'm doing, I'm going to be raising money with my photography, photo shoot for a cause, right? So basically, I'm going to have shoot package you'll see. That shoot package is just, you get a certificate. You can use it during the spring, the summer. You can use it for Valentine's Day, whatever. You can just use it. But we're going to take the proceeds, and much of that proceeds are going to go towards 3 projects. Project number 1 is going to be feeding the homeless. Our goal in March 18th is to do about 300 people. And we're going to do that every month thereafter, trying to stay on top of that. Mentorship program for those who are right around 8 years old to 11 to 12. We want to start focusing on that because this summer is going to be crazy, and we don't get ahead of the curve. It's going to be an issue. We don't know about these young kids, man. Some of them might not even make it because of the violence and all the other things and activity they don't have. We want to get ahead. Thirdly and finally, obviously, we want to meet the F.O.I podcast. We have a lot of stuff we're going to be doing, and especially in high crime areas and high violence areas, we're going to be taking Meet the F.O.I straight to the street. But the reality of it is we're doing things and making moves.
I know I had to redo this one, right? Yeah, see, I've been down in the deep, struggling and praying for weeks. Something ain't right with my soul. If I can't hear when he speak, spiritually battling the beast, trying to take over my peace. I started fasting and reaching places I couldn't even see, and now I'm covered in power. Watch it take over my lungs, speaking life in the dreams that people told me were done. I get a good revelation when I go speak to his son. His name is Jesus, the reason why every battle was won. I remember sitting in my room, clutching one hand on the Glock, feeling like I'm so protected, but barely trusting in God, cause fear was sitting in my body, but never knew this before. Crazy new spiritual encounter where he show up at the door, and that's what I know about rolling down in the deep.
When your brain goes numb, you can call that mental freeze. When these people talk too much, put that in slow motion. Yeah, I feel like an astronaut